On the quiet night of November 13, 2022, the small college town of Moscow, Idaho, was forever changed. For young students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin were found brutally murdered inside their off-campus home. Pause briefly here, let the weight sink in. These were not just names in a news report. They were vibrant young people with hopes, dreams, and futures that were cruelly and violently cut short. Their community was left shattered, struggling to comprehend how such a nightmare could unfold in their peaceful town. November 13th began like any other autumn day. The air was crisp, the leaves turning, and students prepared for the weeks ahead. Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan were all engaged in their studies, friendships, and college life. They were full of potential, joy, and the bright promise of youth. But by nightfall, everything had changed. The discovery of their bodies, stabbed repeatedly, left the community in shock and mourning. The brutal nature of the crime defied explanation. How could something so violent happen in a place where everyone felt safe? Who could commit such a horrific act? And why? Voice softens. Before diving into the investigation or the accused, it is crucial to pause and remember these four young lives. Kaylee was known for her infectious smile and passion for volleyball. She was someone who brought light to every room she entered. Madison had a gentle spirit and a love for art, inspiring those around her with creativity and kindness. Xana was vibrant, compassionate, and deeply loved by her friends. Ethan was an athlete, a loyal friend, full of energy and laughter. Their families, friends, and classmates were left with an emptiness that words cannot fully capture, a void left by the sudden and violent loss of their beloved. Pause for a moment here. The days that followed saw law enforcement launch an intensive investigation. Police sealed off the crime scene and meticulously collected every shred of evidence, determined to bring justice to the victims. DNA samples, fingerprints, surveillance footage, and cell phone data were analyzed with painstaking care. The community waited anxiously for answers, gripped by fear and heartbreak, hoping that the person responsible would be found quickly before anyone else could be hurt. The investigation yielded a breakthrough when DNA found on a knife sheath at the crime scene was linked to Bryan Kohberger, a 30-year-old criminology doctoral student at Washington State University, located just a few miles away from the University of Idaho. On paper, he seemed an unlikely suspect. Studying criminal justice, someone who should have understood the severe consequences of crime and the law's power. Yet the evidence told a different story. His DNA was at the scene, cell phone records placed him nearby, and surveillance footage showed his movements around the time of the murders. On December 30, 2022, he was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania, hundreds of miles away from the scene of the crime. The arrest brought a mix of emotions, relief that a suspect was caught, but also confusion and horror that someone from an academic background could be involved in such a brutal crime. Who was Bryan Kohberger? Friends described him as intelligent, quiet, and reserved. But little was known about what had been going on beneath the surface, or what could have driven him to commit such an unthinkable act. His arrest sent shockwaves through the academic community and beyond. Initially, Kohberger pleaded not guilty. The case was headed toward a high-profile trial, one that promised to uncover more about the events leading up to that dreadful night. But the trial took an unexpected turn when, on July 2, 2025, Kohberger changed his plea to guilty. In exchange, he avoided the death penalty and was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, along with an additional 10 years for burglary. The courtroom was heavy with emotion as the families of the victims faced the man responsible for their pain and loss. During the sentencing hearing on July 23, 2025, family members and friends shared deeply emotional impact statements. Their voices trembled as they described the trauma they continue to live with every day. Dylan Mortensen, one of the surviving roommates, called Kohberger a hollow vessel, highlighting the emotional scars that remain long after the physical wounds have healed. These testimonies revealed the depth of pain and the far-reaching consequences of one horrific night. Despite the guilty plea, one question still hangs heavy in the air: why? Kohberger has never publicly disclosed a motive. Investigators have not explained why two other roommates in the home were spared. The absence of answers leaves the families grappling with an unbearable mystery. Why those four? Why them? This lack of explanation is one of the most painful legacies of this tragedy, adding layers of frustration to grief. The Idaho murders sparked a national conversation about campus safety, mental health, and the justice system. The media closely followed every development, and documentaries like One Night in Idaho, The College Murders delved deeply into the tragedy, exploring its impact on families and the community. This case underscores both the power and challenges of modern forensic science, from DNA evidence to digital tracking, and the immense responsibility borne by law enforcement and the courts. As the community continues to heal, memorials and scholarships have been established to honor Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan's memories. Their stories serve as a powerful reminder of life's fragility and the importance of empathy, vigilance, and justice. Though their lives were brutally cut short, their legacy lives on in the hearts of those who loved them and the community that refuses to forget. The Idaho murders remind us that even in places we consider safe, darkness can unexpectedly intrude. Bryan Kohberger's case challenges us to look deeper at human nature, accountability, and the relentless search for justice and closure. While many questions remain unanswered, the resilience of the victims' families and the community stands as a testament to hope in the face of tragedy. May we honor the memories of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan by striving for a world where such senseless violence becomes a distant memory. May their stories inspire compassion and courage in us all.